Welcome to today's edition of Mental Health Matters. Today, we're going to be talking about grief. I have Cherie Barnes on the show, and she's going to share her experience with grief. Get you something to drink and get you a snack, and come on back. Good morning, Cherie. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning. Good morning.
Look, I stayed up late last night. I'm kind of tired, but I'm still full of energy for some reason, like I was back
Okay.
in college or something.
All right. Well, let's do it.
Yeah. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing pretty good. I can't complain.
I know that's right. I know that's right. So why don't we start by you just introducing yourself, just giving a little bit of background, and we'll just go from there.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone, again. My name is Cherie Barnes, and I am a licensed therapist in the state of Illinois. I am a certified grief coach. I am a published author and a teacher.
Oh, nice, 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 nice. So I will confess this to you. I did not know you were a licensed therapist until I
Yeah.
started doing my research.
Yes.
So what made you go that route in your career?
Actually, it is really sort of by accident the way I became a therapist and an author. I worked for the Department of Corrections for 21 years, and I used to be a parole agent. And
Okay.
so I noticed during my time as an agent, my parolees needed someone to talk to. And so I would block out the last 5 minutes, our parole visit for them. They can tell me anything they wanted, strictly as long as it wasn't anything illegal, anything
Yeah.
like that. I would give them 5 minutes. And that's how I began to say, hey, I think I should do this on a professional level. And so I went back to school to get my master's degree in counseling.
Nice.
And from there, I've been doing therapy since 2006.
Nice. So you switched careers from law, pretty much correction officer type of work into, oh, wow, that's interesting. Wow, interesting. Also, before we get deep into it, you're also a mother. Talk a little bit about Nia.
I am.
Yes.
I have a 12-year-old. Her name is Nia. She is the love of my life, and she is also an author as well. And so I began to write books, and she was like, "I want to do what you do, mommy." And I said, "Okay, well, let's do it." And so
Nice.
the author of 2 books. Yep,
That-
and love of my life.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Awesome. So when you decided to take the first or the last 5 minutes during your session with your clients, did you feel like you was being drawn more into that? Let me back. Did you feel you was being drawn more to that direction of counseling as you got to talking to more and more of your clients?
Not in the very beginning. In the very beginning, I did it just one as an outlet because they felt that no one listened to them, no one really cared, no one talked to them. They've done many things in life and their families was kind of fed up. And so they're
Yeah,
like, nobody listens to me. And so in the
yeah,
beginning, I just wanted to give them that space. But as
yeah,
I began to keep going over the years, I realized that, you know what? This is something I really need to pursue after multiple people kept telling me, Ms. Barnes, you need to do this. You're a good listener. I can
yeah.
tell you anything and you listen to me. And so I began to take it serious. And then I did eventually enroll in college to get my degree.
Nice. So, how long after college did you start to speak on grief and just kind of raise awareness along, those lines?
It's been more than a few years. What actually led me to begin to speak and teach on grief is I lost the love of my life in 2017. It was unexpected and it just shook my world. And so once I kind of got in a better place, I said, okay, well, if I'm experiencing grief and I'm experiencing it the way that I am, surely the goodness, there is something that I can tell someone else so that they can, do a little bit better as they're talking about grief or going through grief. And so that's how the whole grief everything came about for me.
Yeah. Cherie, how did you, when you lost the love of your life, how did you get through that process? Because I guess you can correct me if I'm wrong. At the time when you lost the love of your life, you wasn't, do you feel like you were open to counseling and therapy and stuff like that?
Funny, I'm a therapist by trade, but I didn't want to see a therapist. I was,
Yeah.
"Hey, help me,"
Yeah,
because
exactly. Exactly.
but I didn't. But
Yeah.
I knew that I needed to. I needed to talk to someone outside of family and friends, someone who had the expertise that this they went to school for dealing with grief. They know what to do. And so I eventually said, okay, I got to break down and I will see a therapist. And in my search for a therapist, there are many things that their therapists do. They have different specializations, but I wanted someone that dealt specifically with grief. And so as I looked at therapy profiles, it had to say something about grief, it had to say something about bereavement, it had to say something about
Mhm.
hospice. I wanted them grief specific. And so I sought a grief specific therapist to help me in my journey.
Nice, nice. So, how long do you think it took you to grieve over your loved one?
Ooh.
Because, and this is gonna be a two-part question, so that's gonna be the first. But how long did it take you, in your opinion, you feel like it took you to grieve?
Actually, not being funny, you still grieve every day. I don't think
Right.
that you never stop grieving over your loved one.
Yeah.
My father's been dead for 31 years, and I was a mama's boy, a mama's
Yeah. Girl. Yeah.
and I really still miss him. There are so many things in life that he's missed. And
Yeah.
so I never stopped thinking about dad. I never stopped grieving. You just do it in a different way. And the same with my beloved Mark.
Yeah.
Same thing, a different journey that you deal with grief. So you never get over it, but you always have your memories.
Yes. And the reason why I asked you that was because I have a friend there, he's Ukrainian, and about like 3 or 4 years ago, he lost his mom to cancer. And the family is still grieving over the loss of her. And I've known other people who lost loved ones, but I've also been around people who was not as sensitive
Yeah.
to the grieving process, and they felt like, oh, it's been 10 years, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why are they still like, it's, life goes on and stuff like that. And I remember having conversation with a few people, telling them like, look, people are different. People grieve in different ways. People grieve in different times as well. You got people who could lose a loved one and be okay within 5 or 6 months. Others maybe 10 years, 6 years. So it is a process. So speak a little bit on that.
Absolutely. It is a process. Like you said, there's someone that can lose a loved one and they're okay within 5 to 6 months. Historically, I see partners or spouses, once they lose their spouse, they're used to being married. They're used to the
Yeah.
everyday commitment that it brings. They're used to the schedule. And so
Yeah.
oftentimes someone who has been married, especially for a very long time, 10 years, 15, 30 years, they
Yeah.
will and get married very quickly because they're used to being in that routine. And so, not to say that they don't love their partner or their spouse, but they're used to what they were used to. And so they will quickly remarry versus someone else who they've lost someone 30 years ago and they're still grieving. There is a diagnosis within the DSM-5, it is prolonged grief disorder. And that is when someone is experiencing grief way longer than what typically someone would say grief is.
Yeah.
And different for everyone, but if that grief is affecting you so much where you can't get out of bed, you can't eat, you can't do normal everyday operations functions that will move you forward in life, then at that point, that is when you should seek someone like myself, a therapist, or speak to your primary care physician, because maybe is it that you need medication to
Yeah.
help you because you're stuck in this rut and that you can't move forward.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. I know I've also known people who lost people, not necessarily to death, but the relationship went sour and it ended. And you also see people grieve in that way as well when they come out of a relationship that they were so intertwined in and they were so attached to a person. And do you think that grieving process is a little bit more impactful on the person, or you think it's all the same?
No, it's not all the same. Every loss is different. And
Yeah,
so let's just talk a little bit about different losses. You can have the physical loss of a death of a loved one. You can have the loss of a relationship. You can have a loss of a job. You could have a loss of someone stole your ideas. Say you
yeah,
were at work and you told someone else, hey, this is my idea. Someone stole your idea. So you can't get that promotion, or you can't share. All of those different losses are so very different. And so it depends on the person, what the level of loss is, the person, and what they lost.
yeah,
It may be that you wanted this job, this promotion mean so much to you. It mean a better opportunity for you and your family. It meant a better neighborhood to move in. It meant more money. It meant a personal finance goal. That's a different loss when you think about, oh, I didn't get the promotion or I lost the job, versus your child came home and they lost their book.
hmm, yeah,
It's totally
yeah.
different. So all of those experiences of loss, they're very impactful, but it just depends on the individual and how they see that loss.
Yeah, that's interesting. You mentioned a job because I know someone yesterday who was actually let go of their job, and this is a very close person to me. And so when I was at work, they end up texting me and saying that like they got let go. And this particular person, they internalize their emotions. They don't really show emotions and things like that. But I know the individual well enough to know when they are potentially battling like depression or anxiety and things like that. So what I did was after I got off work, I went and checked on the person, but I also gave them a little bit of space because I was able to discern that they just kind of needed time to
Yeah.
process, what happened. And so they did let me know that they was going to connect with me this morning, but I was kind of concerned, but I didn't want to be overbearing, but give them that space to process what happened and stuff. So I'm glad you said that because I don't think a lot of people realize that grief can not only be associated with death, but things that you may lose as well. And it does depend on your level of attachment to that loss as well.
Yes.
So what has been the biggest lesson learned in grief process for you?
In my personal experience, I would say just knowing that grief is something that I can't control.
Yeah,
It comes out of nowhere. It doesn't make an appointment. It just says, "Hey, I'm here." But the thing is that I know I will always have my memories of that person, of that individual, of that relationship, of that whatever. I'll
yeah,
always have memories to help me when I'm feeling down, when I'm feeling out, or
mm,
just when I'm feeling out of sorts. I can just go back to that wonderful memory, and so
yeah.
those memories are most important.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. A while back, this is like, I want to say, well, I'll back. So I have a friend who was, pretty much is like a brother to me, and he ended up having brain cancer, and God pretty much healed him. That his stage 3 God healed him and stuff. But because of the procedure and the pain, they gave him opioids.
Okay.
He got addicted to pain pills, and from there he got addicted to alcohol. And Cherie, it was so bad, and I am not exaggerating, it was so bad to the point that I mean, myself and the family thought that we were going to lose him. I mean, I was on call when I said 24 hours a day. This boy would just be out
Yes.
2, 3 in the morning, behind garbage cans, drunk, passed out. He would call, and I could be in a meeting at work. I would just get up and go. And it got to a point where I had to get his family involved because they didn't really know all the details. So I had to kind of get them involved because I needed somebody who was closer to him because my job is downtown. And
Okay.
so as I got them involved, they were able to go and meet him and get him where he is. And a few times he passed out, his sister had to perform CPR. It was crazy. What I didn't realize though, during that time period of his alcoholism, I did not realize I was grieving. And this
Mhm.
is a true story. And
Yes.
I started to have all these emotions, us as men, like, oh, you don't want to really show them. And I
Right.
started to internalize my emotions, but I started to battle like depression. I couldn't sleep, like all these emotions that I was not used to and familiar with start to come upon me.
Yes.
And so honestly, I just be transparent with you. I started doing my own research to
Right.
see a therapist, because I needed to talk to somebody who was detached from the situation because the family, that's the loved one. They was really getting on him, like, you need to stop drinking and blah, blah, blah. But it wasn't just that easy because alcoholism is a disease.
Yes.
And so I had to kind of get my own mental health together by actually talking to somebody, but I didn't realize that that was a form of grief during
Yes.
that whole time period.
Yes. It really is a form of grief. And I'm glad you mentioned that because, like I said, not only is just that someone passed away, but the relationship that you had with your brother,
Yeah.
you could see him deteriorating, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I miss the old person. I miss
Yes.
who he used to be. He's
Yeah.
not who he used to be. And so you're grieving the memories of who he used to be, the
Exactly.
the whatever you guys go out and hang out, get food,
Yes.
whatever. You miss that part because he's no longer that person. And then now
Yes.
he's battling addiction. So that's
Yeah.
a different process.
Yes.
Because you can grieve someone in their addiction because they are totally not who you know them to be. They don't make the right decisions.
Yeah.
They don't make the same decisions actually that they did previously, and that you want them to be the person who they used to be, but the addiction is calling their name. The addiction is actually taking over their life. The addiction is showing them this is who you are, not who you used to be. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, most times when you are in the addiction stages and you are really being moved by your addiction, it doesn't get better. It
Yeah.
gets, unless you seek treatment, unless you go to detox, unless you go to inpatient substance abuse programming, get therapeutic interventions, it continues to get worse until it doesn't anymore.
That's exactly right. And I'm gonna be transparent here even more. So I didn't. So what was going on with me was I was kind of anticipating his death
Yeah.
because things will just. I mean, I've never experienced anything like this before in my life with somebody that was so close to me. And I was, not only was I grieving, like you said, because he wasn't the person he was used to be, and the alcohol, then I'm grieving like, oh my God, he's gonna die. But
Yeah.
the interesting thing about it, he went and got help. He's
Okay.
he's clean now.
Okay.
But he went to rehab out of the state of California. It was in another state.
Okay.
But Cherie, when he went to get help, I was still grieving. It
Yeah.
was crazy. Like it was, I'm like, what is, like I should be happy. But I think what was going on was I missed that relationship from the beginning, but I also missed the fact that he wasn't in Sacramento and I didn't have the opportunity to see and
Yeah.
talk to him when I wanted to. And it was just
Yeah.
crazy. It was crazy.
Couldn't go get him, find him on the street behind a garbage can because you knew he was going to be there
Yeah,
because he was in his addiction. And so you're like, okay,
exactly.
wait a minute, you're not here no more. What am I supposed to do with this?
Exactly. That's exactly right.
That's
That's
what
exactly right.
happened.
Weird. Yeah. So, what are some of the symptoms people experience when they are grieving?
It's in a whole array of symptoms, but most notably, and most things that people just know right away. First of all, you're in shock because you're
Yeah.
like, okay, I just talked to you last week. How did you pass away? or what happened. You see a Facebook post, you get a text message from a friend, you get that email, you're really in shock. And honestly, if I'm being transparent, you want to know what happened. You want to
Right.
know why.
Yeah.
Like you,
Yeah.
but shock is definitely one of them. And then you go to extreme sadness
Yeah.
because your emotions is now saying, okay, oh my God, this really have happened. And so you're sad, you're in shock, you're in denial, first of all, because you're like, I just talked to him or
Right.
just saw someone who knew you, and you cannot have passed away. And so sadness, like I said, shock, denial,
Yeah.
those are one of the biggest indicators or the biggest things when you think about grief. Though that's what you think about right away.
Yeah. Yeah. In your opinion, because I know been kind of familiarizing yourself with this topic for a while, upon doing some research, it said that this time of the year, the holidays and stuff like that, the suicide rate actually goes up, because people are not connected to their families. People don't have, families to celebrate the holidays with, or whatever the reason may be. Do you feel like that this time of the year, people will be grieving a little bit more opposed to the other times of the year because it's the holiday season?
Absolutely, I do. And I tell my clients, I actually just told a client this morning, she lost both her parents, and so this is the first year without
Right.
parents. And so I think she's in a really good place emotionally, but she still misses her parents. And so I tell people all the time, you have to have a holiday plan A and B. What
Right.
is
Yeah.
you have to figure out, okay, this holiday is coming. What would first of all, assess previously to this person's passing, what would I normally be doing? It may be going shopping for the Thanksgiving turkey or other fixings. It may be putting a basket together for someone less fortunate. What would you be doing during this time? And get a plan.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it is, I'm not going to show up to that dinner, I'm going to decline that invitation.
Hmm.
Plan what you are going to do, because like you said, this time of the year it is extreme sadness for individuals who have lost loved ones, individuals who are maybe experiencing grief, not just the physical loss, but they may have someone in hospice that they're caring for,
Hmm.
or they may have a child that's terminally ill. And so these times of the year are so very hard, but have that plan, figure out what you're going to do, and tell somebody else what that plan is, so
Yeah.
that you don't show up to that holiday dinner. Someone knows to come and check on you. Someone knows to text you. Someone knows to call you. Um, Important to let people know what's going on in your life at this time, because if you don't have a plan, you're going to plan to fail. And so
Yeah.
have they plan A, B, or C.
That's
If you
awesome.
have a third plan, how am I going to get through this? How am I going to weather the storm? Am I going to go volunteer at the soup kitchen? Am I going to join other friends
Yeah.
in decorating the Christmas tree? Am I going to do whatever? Just
Yeah.
make plan so that you can get through this time and someone else kind of knows what's going on with you, so that you don't find yourself in the throes of depression and thinking about suicide.
Yes, that is so, 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 so powerful, and so needed for people during this time of the year. And it's funny you said that too, because I think that's kind of what I did when it's like a brother, it's my brother, when
Yeah.
he went into rehab. I think that I was doing that, trying to find things to do so that I, won't be grieving or get depressed or just thinking about, oh, he messed up his life. He was so talented. And I really did have to find things to do to cope with that loss per se, and I'm grateful to God that, I was able to get through that and be a support system to him through the whole ride. And, thank God now he's in a better place. So, but let me tell you one thing I learned about myself. This may be, and you may be able to speak to this, but I found myself, like when he came home, I found myself being a little bit guarded.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know if that was due to me not want to get hurt or me thinking like, okay, you it's a chance you may go back out there and make this mistake, but I don't want it to affect me like that. I realized that, like, because I when he came home, I didn't want to like be around a lot, be around as much, because I want to kind of like for him to prove himself. Like, are you
Mhm.
gonna go back out there and do that? And if so, I'm only gonna go so far to the line, because if you do, then I won't, it won't affect me as much.
Yes.
Have you ever known that to happen?
Yes, absolutely. You are protecting your feelings. You put
Yeah,
that barrier up to say, okay, now I don't know what you're gonna do.
yeah,
Put my foot in here a little bit. I'm gonna be there, but I'm gonna pull back out because I'm
yeah,
not sure what you're gonna do because I don't want my feelings hurt. It's
yeah,
natural because you loved your brother. You're
yeah.
like, hey, I'm here for you. We've been through thick and thin.
Right,
You got me, I got you. But
right.
you, hey, if you keep going out there doing this, I'm not gonna be as available for you. I'm not gonna be there the way you need me to. And so it's okay to guard your feelings. It's okay to guard your heart because
Yeah,
that's what you did. You guarded your heart, and it's okay.
yeah. Just listen at you. I'm laughing, I'm smiling inside because I could tell. I mean, I've known you for a while, obviously, with the
Yeah,
college, but
yeah,
I can tell you are really passionate and good at what you do. I could just tell it off top,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Sheree, what do therapists, people like you, how do you guys take care of yourself? Because you listen to so many people problems.
Mhm.
How do you guys take care of yourself? And this is gonna be a two-part question.
Okay.
And is it hard not taking on people's problems or situation home with you? How do you keep that separated?
Well, first of all, I pray. I
Yes,
am a believer. I'm a Christian, and so God is the head of my life.
that's
And so
right.
what I do is I make sure that I go to church on a regular
Yeah,
basis. I go to Bible study. I go to regular service. My daughter's involved in children's programming, and so I make sure I stay connected to my church. I make sure I stay connected to spirituality because
yeah,
if I don't, I don't know where I'm going to be. First of all, just
yeah,
put I don't know
yeah,
what to be, but I need that to help me as I deal with just the things that come in life, not just with my clients, but just
yeah,
stuff that happens in my own life. I
yeah,
need, and so I make sure that I stay connected, I stay plugged in so
yeah,
that I know that I'm okay. I do self-care as well.
yeah.
Uh, I do pedicures, massages, I
That's
listen
awesome.
to music, I make sure that I stay grounded for one. And when I need to talk to someone, I reach out to my therapist and say, hey,
That's awesome.
how to talk.
That's
Or
awesome.
reach out to a therapist friend if I can't get that connection there. Hey, this is not sure you're talking to as your friend. This is just Sheree. I need help.
That's
Just
awesome.
can you share with me or can you listen? Because this is what I got going on. And they do.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's very awesome. In the African American community, this was not always on the table,
Oh, no.
because we're taught to be strong Black men and strong women, and we are taught to handle our problems and be strong in our situation. And I know when I grew up, this was not even a conversation. You deal with it and you move on.
Right. That's
But
right.
as and as the years moved on, I think so much has happened in the world with depression, mental health, and anxiety, all this stuff. And I'm so glad that people, especially African Americans, are open
Yes.
to therapy and going to get some type of counseling to
Mhm.
assist them with whatever situation they're going through. You know, so do you find that do you think that that still is somewhat challenged within our culture, or do you think it has gotten better because like you're like in the midst?
I want to say it's gotten so much better than what it used to be. And not that the pandemic was a good thing,
Yeah,
but help people to realize that they need others, that you need support, you need connection to others. And so I tell people you need Jesus and you need a therapist
that's
because
right.
there is so much going on in this world that you can't do this alone. But I think the pandemic really helped people to say, okay, I can do this, that it's not as taboo as we once thought, that
Exactly.
we can reach out. We have permission to reach out to others to say, I need help. Can you please help me? And people are willing, they're ready, they're able to help others.
Yeah. So you have a daughter, Nia. Do you teach her when things are going maybe a little bit stressful for her? Do you teach her that she can come to mommy and talk to mommy and
Oh, sure.
that to seek guidance in areas that may be stressing her out at such a young age?
Oh, yeah. And she has come to me and say, okay, I don't like this. This is what's happening. I think I need a therapist. Can you
That's
find me
awesome.
somebody? I want to talk to somebody besides you and
That's
grandma,
awesome.
church people, or whatever. She's like, okay, I need to talk. And so sometimes I turn her over to my friends who
That's awesome.
other kids that around their age and that kind of thing. And it's not mommy talking, it's mommy's friend, but this is auntie, this person to me. And so
Yeah.
still gives her an outlet for her to talk to somebody else. So she knows that she could come and talk. And so the clue, mommy, we need to talk.
Hmm.
Okay. I
Yeah.
stop what I'm doing, turn off TV, phone, whatever, and I shut it down.
That's awesome.
Give her time.
That's awesome. And the reason why I asked you that, Cherie, is because, the things that's going on in the world, especially with our youth, the peer pressure, the bullying, whatever is going on, I'm glad that God has blessed her to be able to have access, not just to her mommy,
Yeah.
but you having access to somebody else that could potentially assist her in whatever it is that she needs to talk about. So to me, that's super duper important, super important.
I'm thankful for God for that because, growing up, my mom took us to church when she didn't have anyone. And
Yeah.
so Mia knows that church is open for her as well, whether it's talking to First Lady, whether it's actually talking to Pastor, whether it's
Yeah.
talking to one of the youth partners. She knows that I need to talk to somebody. That is a safe place for me to go to as well. And so I've made that perfectly clear. She's grown up in church all her life. So she knows that I can connect here and it's okay.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, what do you say to someone who has lost a loved one?
There's lots of things you can say to people. Sometimes people say things that may not be most appropriate. And
Yeah.
so you have to kind of check yourself, but just let them know that you're here for them. And sometimes people say that they don't really mean it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really there for that person.
Yeah.
Really let them know that if you need me, I'm here for you, or my thoughts are with you and your family. I know oftentimes people say I'm praying for you, and
Hmm.
it depends on if you know this person, if they're open to prayer, if they're open to spirituality. Some people that's not their thing. And
Yeah.
so you can't always say I'm praying for you because they may not believe in the same God that you believe in, or
Yeah.
that's not where they are. And so I just tell people my thoughts are with you.
Yeah.
Thinking about you, if you need help, let me know. And if you actually know this person, take over and do stuff. You know, they need to eat, or they have family and they need to eat. They're not thinking about where our next meal is going to come from. So just kind of taking over and say, I got you, and just start doing stuff.
Yeah. That's awesome. How important is self-care for individuals even before they enter the grief process? How important is self-care?
I think just period, people should be doing some form of self-care anyway,
Yeah.
you're grieving or not, whether it's something as I want this cup of coffee from Starbucks and this
Yeah.
that's out for the holiday. I'm gonna actually go get this coffee. I'm gonna actually sit and enjoy it while I'm at Starbucks and not rush back home to deal with family or loved ones or whatever it is that's waiting on them at home, the bills, the stress, or whatever. Enjoy that cup of coffee because that is your time. Go
Yeah.
get a pedicure, go window shopping, and go price that new jacket that you've been looking for, that new coat, those new boots, things that bring you joy. And
Yeah.
so do those things before life hits you or life happens. So when life does happen and it hits you and you find yourself in that grief process, you know that these are things that I like to do. I've done them in the past. Let me pick this back up and let me make it a little bit bigger and better so
Mhm.
that I know that it will take care of me.
Yeah.
And you are grieving, knowing that having someone come over and sit with you during that time, that is a form of self-care because
Mm.
you're able to express, you're able to share what you're feeling, your thoughts, your whatever it is you have that person there. And so making sure that someone is there for you in that midst, that's part of that whole self-care.
Yeah, and the reason I asked you that is because I wanted to highlight that that's so important. I know for myself, obviously I like working out. That's a form of self-care, but I think for me, I my biggest self-care for myself is connecting with Christ. That's my ultimate. I love getting in my obviously read the words, my time prayer in the morning. But I love getting in my car and listening to worship music. I just get lost and I feel
Yeah.
so elevated. I find so much peace and strength and joy, and just doing that. And I would just get in my car and just go. You know, one of the things God has allowed me to do is mentor young men. When I say young men, like 19 and up. And so recently, maybe about a year and a half ago, I ended up connecting with this somebody I know, but I knew his mom and stuff too. But I ended up connecting with him. He was 19 years old. And when I met him, well, when I started to reconnect with him, he was like in such a bad place mentally. Young black guy. I mean, just and I didn't really know how deep his issues was. And so as time went on, he started to share things with me and talk to me and stuff. And I wanted to, I attempted to encourage him to go and see a therapist, but he, strong personality, was super against it. He was not trying to hear it. And so I really had to like really pray for him and get guidance from the Holy Spirit and how to deal with this young man. And so one of the things that I did was try to get to the root of the problem, because all this stuff was going on. And then I learned that, he had a tumultuous relationship with his mom, his family, his dad wasn't involved, and he did not feel love. That was the thing that I felt was screaming for him. He didn't feel love. He talked about, people always turned their back on him. And what he did was he latched on to different women to seek the love that
Yep.
he thought he was getting. And so I had to get in there and really, 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 teach him, how to become a young, productive man in society. I helped him get a job, helped him get a car, and just now he's thriving. And just yesterday he was telling me, like, they call me Jay. Jay, thank you so much, man, for helping me. And one of the things I did too was help him reconnect with his family, especially his mom, in a healthy way,
Mhm.
because there was a lot of this tough profanity type of love, and I had to tell him, like, hurt people.
Yes, they
Sh-
do. Yes, they do.
she don't mean it. So I said, what you have to combat that with love. And he said, well, she's not gonna be open to it. I said, that's fine. Send her a text message and say, Mom, I love you. How you doing? And as he started to do that, I'm telling you, Cherie, she started to break down.
Wow.
That strong personality, she started to break down. They have a very healthy relationship
I'm
now
so glad to hear
because of that.
a lot. But it's
Yeah.
about acceptance as well, accepting who he was as an individual and accepting who his mom was, not necessarily this is who she is in the past, but who
Yeah.
she be now in the future.
Yes, exactly. They call, they text. I mean, it's man, I was just so elated that God was able to mend that relationship. And this is just one of many, that God has used me to build relationships with family members, because you can tell a person is hurt for something. I know myself, my dad, we still not close. We never had a relationship. And I didn't even know all and through college, after college, I
Yeah.
was grieving because I didn't have a relationship with
Yeah,
him.
absolutely. Yeah.
And I had to go and get my own help to get over that,
Yes.
to deal with that and get over that and accept that's, you can't change the past. And it is what it is. So I love all of this stuff. Is what I'm trying to say. So how do you show someone you care when they're grieving?
um, Many ways you can be there for them. You can make sure there's food for them. You can literally start doing errands, watch the
Yes.
kids, many things. I mean, finding out, and not necessarily from the person that's grieving, because they may not be able to actually articulate, this is what I need, but of another family member or someone that's close to the family. Tell me what it is they need at this moment, and I will be able to do it. Even if you can't do it, you can employ a team of people or friends or other family members to make sure that their needs are met.
Yeah.
That's the best way you can care for someone who is grieving, making sure they have their needs met, whatever that may be.
Yeah, that circle of support is definitely
Absolutely.
important. Important. I took this class years ago to become like a certified like RAP facilitator. What that stands for, Wellness Recovery Action Plan. And within this certification, you had to learn how to teach people or guide people to create a daily, what I think is a daily wellness plan. And so what that consists of, things that you have to do in order to stay well. That may be take a shower, that may be go to the gym, take a bubble bath, or whatever it is that that particular individual had to do daily in order to stay well. And that has been very successful uh, for people who has taken that workshop, because a lot of people, I think sometimes people didn't realize that they have to do certain things in order to stay well. Like myself, I have to get up and read and pray before I start my day. There's been times when I'm, woke up late and I'm late for work and I don't get it in the way I should. My day really feels unbalanced,
Yeah,
you know.
you want it to be.
Yeah. So I've learned to take those tools that I was even taught in this class I took to apply it to my own life. I've always, I always tell myself, you can't help somebody unless you're in a position to help yourself.
Yes.
And I used to think that was selfish, but
Yes.
it's really not.
Or from an empty cup.
Right, right. So I've learned some things through the years.
Right now.
Uh, so let's talk a little bit about the stages of grief. I heard about the stages of grief. Does everyone go through stages? I know we may touched on this earlier, but touch on that a little bit.
I don't think everyone goes through all of the stages back to back to back.
Okay.
Um, the stages of grief are so different for everyone. You're in denial, and you're bargaining, and do I
Oh no.
accept this person? Do I accept that they've actually passed away? And so, no, I don't think everyone goes through the stages of grief. I think people um don't go through the stages all the same way.
Yeah.
And you skip stages, you skip stuff. And
Mm.
so there's no way that you can actually go through them um like everyone else is. One person may go through one thing, one person may go through another. And so no, you don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't even go through stages at all. They're just stuck where they're stuck. They're stuck at that initial, oh my God, this person has passed away, and that's it. So
Yeah.
those stages are they're linear, they're up and down. So no, you don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I want to talk a little bit about your book. Let's
Okay.
talk a little bit about that. First, I want to ask you, what actually prompted you to write a book?
Like I told you earlier, I am an author by accident, really.
Yeah.
I happened back in 2017, I happened to just be on Facebook, and this lady was offering a workshop for like, I don't even remember,
Yeah.
$20 or something, write a ebook or something. Okay, I could do that, maybe.
Well,
But the real reason is I was looking for something to do. I was looking for something to pass my time. I was looking to help myself in the grieving process. And I
yeah,
said, okay, I had already journaled. And so I'm like, you know what? Let me see what this is going to be about. So I took the class, and my first book came out as an ebook, which is 12 Lessons of Healing Through Grief. But how I got to that place is I sat on the edge of my bed in between my woes and my crying and my weeping and my grieving because I was in such pain. I needed to do something with my time. And so that actually began my journey of being a published author, is because my pain
yeah.
uh, moved me to something. And so that's how I became a published author.
Wow, that's amazing. Just by accident, you had no intention. You just kind of fell into it.
No clue,
Wow,
no desire, no, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna check this off my bucket list. None of that. It's just
wow,
my own pain led
wow.
me that way.
So talk a little bit of what's the name of your book, and let's talk a little bit about what your book is about.
Okay. That's I have like 8 books.
Okay, let's talk about them. Let's talk about your first book and go from there.
Okay. So my first book is 12 Lessons of Healing Through Grief. And so that is my very first book. I started as an ebook, and then I
Okay.
turned it into a paperback book. But that really, I have people often ask me, okay, I'm on Amazon and I see your collection of books. What's a book that I should give someone who they just lost their loved one, or they're grieving, or it's been a year or two? How do I direct them? Because I know that your story is personal, how you began to do this. I want to help them. And I always refer people back to my very first book. That really is the heart and soul of my raw emotions
Mm.
as I was right in my grieving journey. My fiance, he passed away in January. The book was published in November. And so that was
Wow.
not a really long time for me in terms of my own grief process. But I can say writing those books, it helped me because it felt like journaling. It
Yeah.
helped me figure out what to do next. And so those are my very raw emotions, not even a year after I've lost him. And so
Yeah.
that's the heart and soul of everything that I tell people. That is the book you should get someone right after you lose someone, or the very first book, and I guess in my grief series, that you would have someone to read, because it's raw. It's my
Yeah.
emotions. It's really real. And
Yeah.
so I see people pick that book up. Is what I want someone to read right away.
Okay. I'm definitely going to be, as I run across people in my line of work that may need some material to read regarding grief, I'm definitely going to refer them.
Really appreciate
So don't be surprised when I reach out to you.
it.
Yeah, for sure, because it's important.
It
It's
is.
very, very important. So um, your second book, what prompted you to do a second book?
Conversations with God, the devotional.
Nice.
I said I'm a believer, and so I could have not gotten anywhere I am, even to this day, without my church family, without my pastor, my first lady, without the church rallying around me. And I wanted to do something that spoke to a person who was into spirituality. I didn't
Yeah,
want to just be, okay, you wrote this book. I needed to have something else, the connection to it. And so that's when I wrote Conversations of God. I just wanted a devotional of different things that we talk about in terms of loss of relationships, loss of a significant other, loss of hope, loss of this. I kind of wanted to have something for someone to reference, because like we discussed, not every grief is or loss is just a physical loss. There's all these other things. And so I wanted to have something where there was a prayer and a scripture and, place for you to write about that particular loss, or a place for you to connect to. If it's not you, then it's someone else. And
wow,
and I wanted it to be a devotional where you can actually open up that book and write. So
powerful.
that was important for me to be able to do it.
Powerful, very, very powerful. Um, Another book, you got another one you want to talk about?
Let's see. Uh, I did an anthology. It's called Triumph Over Grief. And
Mm,
so I tell people this is probably my favorite book in the whole world because I not only dealt with my own grief, but I put a call out to folks who I thought would be interested. And I did this several years ago, but I wanted to share other people's stories about how they triumphed over their grief and what they did.
powerful.
And so the book features four other authors, and they tell their story about how they started the grieving process, what it looked like in the middle, and how they triumphed over their grief. And so I just really, I'm like, I know if I'm going through this, there are so many other people that are going through it. And so I wanted to have a platform. I wanted other people to have space to be able to share what they went through, how life treated them, what did they do during that time. And so I wanted just to have that platform. And I'm thinking about doing another one. I haven't got there yet, but
Yeah.
really wanted to give people a space to be able to share not just their grief, but others, and for others to connect with other stories.
I think that was very brilliant of you to approach it that way, because not only do you hear stories from people who share their grieving process, but people who have experience
Yeah.
in the grieving process, you know. And when I do this show, I've been doing this show for a while now. I've always loved to hear different people testimonies. To
Yeah.
me, that has been the most impactful, you know, when you hear people personal stories about what they went through and how they were able to overcome,
Yeah. Oh,
you
yeah.
know. So I really, 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 really like that. So thank you for sharing that. So what's next for you, Cherie? What's next? What's next for you and taking on this giant, you know, emotion of grief? Like what's next for you with this right here?
Just to continue to write books,
Yeah.
to do workshops, so that others will, learn about grief. My goal is to be a TEDx speaker. And so
Mm.
I've applied for TEDx here in Chicago where I am, and I didn't get selected, but I'm going to try again. I want to be able to share my 10 minutes of why this matters to me, my 10 minutes of what's important, my 10 minutes of this is how I want to continue to help others. So that's one of my next goals is to be a TEDx speaker.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, I think we got about a couple of minutes. So what advice would you give somebody who is contemplating about seeking counseling and therapy, but they feel like, oh, you know, I just don't know. I don't want the person to judge me. I don't know if they would really care. Like, what advice would you give that person?
First of all, I would say, hey, you know what? Therapists, social workers, psychologists, counselors, whoever you connect to, we have a board of ethics, and our ethics says that we need to not place judgment on individuals. We need to be open and honest. We need to help others as we see fit. And so, if there's a reason why we can't help you, we would refer you to someone else. But not to be afraid, not to be ashamed, not to be scared, that this is what we love to do. We're in this business to help others. We're in this business to help people. And so if you feel like you need to talk to someone, do your research, find someone that you connect with, and whether that means you are interviewing or talking to 2 or 3 different therapists at a time, just so that you can get the 5 or 10 minute consultation that therapists do to find out if you're a good fit. Find out if you're a good fit, and if you're not a good fit for a therapist, once you talk to them, please reach out to another one, because I promise you there is someone that you will connect with who you can give your worries, your problems, your strife, your everything to, because we're here to help.
That's awesome. What I love about you, everything about you, I love. I'm just gonna share it with you now. But what I really, really, really love about you is you are a praying woman coupled
Yeah.
with your profession. And I think just I'm biased now. I
Okay.
think that makes you a little bit more effective
Right.
because you hear from God as you know do your work and stuff. So Cherie, if someone want to get a hold of you, is there a website, email, or that people can get
Sure.
your materials or reach out to you?
Yeah, if they want to connect with me on Amazon, all I gotta do is just Google my name, Cherie Barnes, and I'll come right up.
Okay.
Um,
And then Cherie, it's the way you spell your name,
yes,
Cher.
it's
Okay, IE.
CHERIEBARNES. Or they can use bit.ly /LY Cherie Books if they're
Okay.
looking for a material resource in terms of books. I'm on Facebook as Cherie Barnes. You can Google Cherie Barnes on Facebook. I'll come right up. Or you can send me an email or go to my website. My website is the Healing Group Community LLC.com.
Okay, perfect. Well, Cherie, we have run out of time. This hour has been amazing. I
Thank
really, really appreciate you willing to come on this platform and share your personal experience and just educate the community regarding counseling therapy. I'm praying that God bless you with great things moving forward. And I'm sure we will be connected again on this platform for sure.
you. It's my
Thank you.
pleasure. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And that's it for this edition of Mental Health Matters. If you enjoyed this particular topic, if you would like to be a guest on the show, or if you would like a DVD copy of this particular show, please dial 916 366 4600. Thank you.